Three matches, two managers who may be under pressure, and one weekend in the Premier League. Hi, I'm Wayne and welcome to Goals by the Numbers. Let's just get straight into it. So, the matches that we are going to look at today are Arsenal versus Leeds, Fulham versus Manchester United, and Manchester City versus Tottenham. So, on to our first match Arsenal versus Leeds. So, I guess this is Leeds' biggest game so far, second game of the season, having been promoted from the Championship. And Arsenal beat them 5-0. So after 20 minutes, Leeds had a good header, but it was well saved by Raya. And you thought, okay, maybe, they can get something out of this game. Arsenal weren't amazing last week at Old Trafford, but in the 33rd minute, something that Arsenal have become very good at, which is set pieces, Tim was able to rise and head the ball in the goal. Arsenal started to take control, 1-0. After that, and a goal which we'll look at in a bit further detail, Arsenal were attacking. Leeds attacked or Leeds got the ball back. Arsenal were able to regain control, and Saka was able to run down the right side of the box and finish with his right foot. Really good finish, especially as he's a left-footed player. So on to the second half, and Gyökeres' first goal was a bit of an Arsenal breakaway. He ran down the left channel, cut inside, and prodded the ball home. So his first goal after his transfer from Sporting Club Portugal. And he's now taken off. First goal in the Premier League. Following that, there was another set piece where Timber was able to prod the ball home. Set pieces is Arsenal maybe derided for doing it, but why not, right? Any means of scoring a goal is a good means of scoring a goal. So I guess long may it continue. So after that, the winner was courtesy of Victor Gyökeres and a penalty. But what was interesting about this is the penalty was won by Max Dowman, who was just 15 years old. When I think of what I was doing at 15, it wasn't running around the Emirates winning penalties. Okay, so taking a look at Saka's goal, because it was really interesting to see how Arsenal were attacking, where their players were, the fact that Leeds were able to win the ball, yet still lose it and concede a goal. So in this first image, you can see how where Gruev is tackling an Arsenal player and regaining possession for Leeds. You can see Leeds' backline reasonably compact. Arsenal's attack, especially with the wide players wide to ensure width and change angle of attack. Now you'll also notice as well how quickly Declan Rice runs back to try and pressure Gruev on the ball to regain possession. Now, after this, you see the next image. This is where Zubimendi's already won the ball back because Gruev's lost control of it. And he plays it wide to Timber, who's still reasonably far forward because he was part of the attack Arsenal were undertaking. Now, Timber receives the ball, looks down the line, and what you'll notice is Saka, or rather the defender, being Goodmanson, is the wrong side of Saka. So what this means is, if Saka's able to get past him, Goodmanson's out of position and quote unquote out of the game. So Timber plays the ball down the line. Saka actually makes it. And in the next image, you can see that Strujic, another Leeds defender, has now come across to try and block Saka. And Goodmanson, realizing that a team has had to cover for him, he started to run towards the centre of the box to replace him and cover him, because Zubimendi's now making his way in the box. But he's not necessary because Saka puts the ball in the back of the net with ruthless accuracy, and Leeds can see another goal. So what do we learn from this? Always stay the goal side of the attacker, because if you lose him, it's never good. It's never good. But we live and learn lessons. You'll also notice as well Gruev on the edge of the box, who initially won the ball and then lost it. As he runs towards his own goal to prevent the goal, he kind of eases up a little bit, just a little bit. So on to our next match, which is Manchester City 0, Tottenham 2. Manchester City, I don't know what happened, but I can't remember seeing a Manchester City team play that bad in a long time. Like, I'm talking before the new owners came in. And yes, Tottenham were good. We shouldn't discount the fact that Tottenham came They were organised. They knew what they were doing. They looked bigger, stronger, fitter. Manchester City just didn't. It just seemed really disconnected. I mean, yes, Tottenham have been good. 2 games so far this season. Scored 5 goals. Haven't conceded any. Great. Okay. Manchester City have spent a good amount of money since January, so they've got a whole new cast of players to pick from. Um, Spurs had more chances. They had more shots on target, and outside of possession, this was kind of a comprehensive win, even though it was only just 2 goals. For the first 30 minutes, Manchester City had a couple of good chances, but then after that, Spurs just took control. Manchester City played a line so high, it didn't make sense because the defenders being Diaz and Stones, good defenders, really good defenders, quality defenders, but they haven't got the kind of pace that you're going to need to make sure you just don't have a ball over the top and then you run back towards your goal being outrun. And when you think Tottenham have Brennan Johnson and Richarlison, 2 players who are quick, you're just asking for problems. Just I don't know why a decision wasn't made to just tell the Man City back line to just come back a bit, just to try and use Trafford to sweep a keep or just to make it a bit more difficult for Tottenham. But no, the whole game Pep stuck to his guns, going to play a really high line, and yeah, the players didn't seem to really press very well. Again, I have to stress Spurs did play well, so it wasn't as if Man City were just bad and Spurs were okay. Spurs did play well. Really, they played well, very well. But Manchester City were poor, really poor. To kind of illustrate the point, City was so high that Tottenham effectively beat them, or they scored their first goal from a direct pass. So Porro had the ball in the right back area and played the ball down the line. It was headed on. Richarlison ran and crossed the ball to Brendan Johnson, and that was it, 1-0. Nathan Ake did try and catch Richarlison, but he had no chance. And Diaz even fell over, just to make it a little bit more comical. And yeah, after that, it was yeah, good night, Manchester City. Really, um, I would love to know why playing such a high line was the plan. I don't know. Pedro Porro, I should stress, played 17 balls into the final third from right back, and he played more than I think he played twice as much as the nearest player, which is insane. But I suppose if the line is that high, why not, right? Um, what else? Um, Trafford, who's gone back to Manchester City, James Trafford. He tried to pass the ball out from the back, and if you just look at the image, I'll add an image. If you look at the image, you can see the 2 players either side of the Manchester City players. And he tries to play it forward into Nico Gonzalez, who immediately is tackled. And he's tackled, 10 yards from the goal line. Richarlison tries to have a shot, and then in the end, it's Parley and he puts the ball home. That's it. Game over. I do not know what Manchester City was doing. I'm sure Pep had an idea, and it clearly didn't translate onto the pitch at all. So this takes us on to our final match of today, that being Fulham 1, Manchester United 1. So after the positivity around the defeat to Arsenal, Manchester United fans, including myself, would have been optimistic that the same level of effort, if applied against Fulham, and with Fulham, no disrespect, not being as good as team as Arsenal, a positive result would have been, the outcome. But for the first half an hour, Man United were really, they were on them. They were really, really keen to get forward. Couldn't even hit in the bar. But then after Fernandes missed a penalty, and it was a strange penalty. Fernandes was lining up to take it. Referee walks around him and brushes him. Fernandes seems angry, and then seems to lose composure and just blast the ball very far over the goal. Yeah, wasn't good. But in the second half, United did actually get their first goal. Yoro headed it, even though it went down as an own goal, but okay, whatever. And what was interesting that Yoro got the first goal is because, and watching, oh, not even that, I saw an X, and then it was repeated by in another video. Lenny Yoro hasn't won a match he started for Manchester United, and he's been here for just over a year now. So can you imagine every match you start, you haven't won. But what's really interesting about that is over every period he plays, he seems to be getting better. So he's getting better while still having never won a game. His mindset must be it's all over the place. I remember Tottenham had this a while back with Gareth Bale when they first went to the club. I think he was something like 30, 40 games, never having had won a match. And then as soon as that was broke, he then went on to become a really great player. So I guess the same thing happens here. Okay, thank you, Leonard Yoro. Um, Fulham equalised when Emil Smith Rowe got on the end of a cross and put it home from a couple of yards. What was strange about that goal is ball was crossed. De Ligt seemed to be near it, but didn't really seem to clear it. And then that left Smith Rowe to poke it home. 1-1, game was done. At this point, 1 point from 2 games is not great. But I think the problem Amram's going to have is towards the end of the season, once it become obvious that United were not going to do anything this season, and it all became about the Europa League. It was just match after match after match and continuous poor results. And then the theory was he needs like a pre-season to embed the players in the system, get them used to it, and become effective and go from there. Okay, it can happen. This season started, lost the first game against Arsenal, which at this point is no real shame because Arsenal are one of the best teams in the league. But then going into to Fulham, there was another defeat. The midfield looked a bit imbalanced. Bruno Fernandes again having problems because in the first game he gave away a corner which Bayern then couldn't keep out, and then in this game he put a penalty over the bar. Ruben Amorim, like Pep, having had lost the game, he is in danger of a couple of bad results just being a hell of a lot for him. And we'll have to see how the press reacts. So far, the legacy media seems quite relaxed. Of course, online you can get quick reactions, so sometimes it's vitriolic, and then with time, a more measured approach. But Amorim needs something pretty quickly to keep the faith. I guess we'll have to see how the next few games go and see how he gets on. Especially now when you consider all the thought process at the beginning of the season would have been Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City are going to get the top 3 spaces. Chelsea are going to run them close, so that's 4th. So realistically, in terms of qualifying for Europe, Manchester United are competing with Newcastle and Spurs and Aston Villa. Spurs are already, they would have won 2 from 2 and beat Man City at home. So they're 5 points ahead of Manchester United, which could be the 5th place in the league, which leaves 1. So yes, it's going to be an interesting season. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. So to run through the other matches that have been played this weekend, we have West Ham losing 5-1 at home to Chelsea. Graham Potter, he is going to be under pressure very soon. It's almost as if he wants to play a system of football which the West Ham players just aren't suited for. Bournemouth beat Wolves 1-0 at home. Brentford also beat Aston Villa 1-0. Burnley beat Sunderland 2-1. And Crystal Palace drew 1-1 with Nottingham Forest. And Everton beat Brighton 2-0. Isn't it interesting how many home games have clean sheets and have all won? Apart from Manchester City, of course. So the last match is Newcastle playing Liverpool. later on today, and that will round up the weekend. So that wraps up our review of the second round of matches. Of course, Newcastle and Liverpool are playing later on today. But what do we think about the fixtures so far the results, I should say, so far this weekend? Tottenham have been doing well, as mentioned, 5 goals in 2 matches. Manchester City, having lost the game, I'm sure now a bad result next week will only result in the word crisis being used. And Manchester United with 1 point from 6. Amram clearly needs more time, but the way last season went, is he going to be given it? Is he even going to make Christmas? So, I'll see you all next week. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one.